This NASCAR 2025 Driver Changes and Expectations Part 2 edition of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with our promo code RACESGPN to get a deposit bonus of up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by Rhythm, the leader in data-driven picks and props. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITH.
Driver, start your engine!
Strap in and pull those belts up tight as the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presents the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
I'll wreck my mom to win a championship. I'll wreck your mom to win a championship.
With all the news and the best bets for your NASCAR weekend.
It refrains me from not beating the out of you right now because you asked me stupid questions. But since I'm on probation, I suppose that's improper to say as well. If you could talk about racing things, we could talk about racing things.
Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb.
Let's talk racing things, shall we? It is, of course, the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. You're on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez. In the waning hours and days of 2024, as fruitful as it's been, Cody, I, for one, am very much looking for a 2025 proverbial clean slate. I love how every year we always go, we're turning the chapter on the next year, and it's like the same on the 1st of January. Nothing changes.
That's like when you're a grown-up and you have a birthday, and it's like, you know, when you turned 8 from 7, it was like, oh my God, I feel so different. Now when you turn, you know, from 27 to 28, like, it's just another day. It doesn't really make a difference, right? But that's all right. Here we are, Rod, closing out 2024. One thing that the new year does mean is we're that much closer to racing. Jimmy Johnson days until the Daytona 500. Let's fucking go. Oh, we're getting so close.
It's my favorite day. It is Jimmy Johnson Day. Oh, wait, when I saw that post today, and by the way, this is a shameless plug. If you're not already following us on Twitter or on Facebook, you are missing out on a wonderful array of history in NASCAR. Every day we do give you the cars, because we can't do it here, obviously. We were already told by our fans they don't like it. Well, that's fine. Take it to this.
I think we give that one guy a little too much credit on that.
We do. But no, I know, right? The one that spoils the rest of the fun for the rest of you. But anyways, it is Jimmy Johnson days away. I did enjoy seeing that Lowe's paint scheme. I think somebody had posted the other day they were watching one of the older races, and the screenshot they showed was that beautiful Lowe's paint scheme, and I was like, I miss that bad boy on the track each and every day. So thank you, Cody, for showing it to me through social media today.
Yeah, I had to go back. Sometimes, you know, it is fun to go through and look at, you know, and some of them, like, you just remember, like, there's a certain scheme that, like, sticks out. Like, when we get to 24, I'm telling you right now, it's going to be the T-Rex car, and it's not going to be the classic DuPont. It's the T-Rex car. But for Jimmy Johnson, it's like, this was the classic heyday. Like, this is what the car looked like for the most part. I mean, some of the 5 championship run in a row was COT car as well, but that's the classic Jimmy Johnson as we know him. So yeah, had to go with the classic there.
Wouldn't it be great if just for one race, and I don't care what race it is, I don't care. Maybe it's the throwback race, right? At why am I blanking? It's not Martinsville, or it's Richmond. Darlington, there you go. I knew it was a short track. But yeah, so what if for once Lowe's worked out a deal with Legacy in the 84 to throw that Lowe's paint scheme on just one more time for me? That's all I'm asking for.
Yeah, they might want to be remembered during Jimmy's good times as Jimmy's sponsor. So I don't know. That could be the problem there, but hey, it is a great thought and great idea. There has been some pretty sweet, and our guy Adrian too over on the X has been responding to a lot of the posts there with awesome paint schemes. And there's been a couple times where it's been Jimmy Johnson throwbacks of other numbers, which always just, man, that those schemes hit hard because it's that one, the classic one, or it's like the silver sort of Cobalt or whatever 48 car as well, which is always classic too.
We could talk Jimmy Johnson all day. We won't, though, but if you want us to, maybe we'll start a different podcast and call it the Jimmy Johnson Hour with Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb, at which point that would also be available on the SG.
Would have been such a hit in 2006, Rod.
It's a hit today. I don't care what you are. Kids, know your Jimmy Johnson history. But, yeah, you can find that also on the SGPN app if we were to do that, along with all the other great shows that are out there right now. You can find all of those and free picks, free. I'm going to say that word one more time for those of you in the cheap seats who love free. It's all free. Download the SGPN app. Just type SGPN in the app store.
But you have to pay for it after you download it, right? Like in-app purchases, right? Per show or something.
Cody, no. It's all free. What are we talking about here?
All free. Look, that's crazy.
Sean and Ryan don't like to charge people for stuff. That's where we get our sponsors for, and that's why everybody loves us. But all right, so Cody, we left off talking about Joe Gibbs Racing in this episode that we did last week about driver changes and what we expect from him. And really, if this is your first episode of this series, go back, listen to that one, or we'll just kind of fill you in now that we're kind of breaking down all these driver changes. I know we've talked a lot about them over the offseason because it's, a lot to talk about and a lot to digest. But really what we wanted to do in this instance was kind of give you what we felt like we could expect from these drivers. Because a lot of times you're just like, oh yeah, they changed teams and this is it. But now we get a chance to talk about some of the other drivers that we haven't talked about in the championship editions or the win totals. So kind of if there's a driver that's on a team that got changed that we don't normally talk about all the time, this gives us an opportunity to sort of catch you up on what faces are in, what new rides and what we expect from them.
Yeah, again, just get reacquainted with who's where, right? The 19 car, it's been Truex for a long time. It's not Truex anymore, right? Now it's Chase Briscoe in there. And yeah, it gives guys like Ty Dillon, that was their chance to be talked about on the podcast on the last episode because, well, he'll come up on the super speedways probably, but outside of that, not a guy that we're going to talk about very much. So always good to be able to cover the whole field and expectations, right? Because then you sort of know, what do we think these guys are going to do? What are we going to be looking for, moving forward into the betting parts of things as the season goes on?
Yeah, and some of these drivers are actually they're joining teams that are relevant. And so with the case of the first one, where we're going to talk about,
really, like every team is pretty relevant to some degree at this point, right? Like this is the most like full and good that NASCAR has been, and even last year with Justin Haley, Rick Ware Racing had some great runs. With Corey Lajoie switched over to that ride, had some good runs. We've seen Spire, who's been a sort of a doormat for a while, is really picking up, and we're going to talk about them today and their big-time driver and crew chief changes. You don't really have any teams that are just super horrible. There's teams that aren't going to compete on a week-to-week. Like Rick Ware is not competing for wins outside of super speedways, and same thing with now HAAS Motorsports, right, which we'll get into, formerly JTG. But like everybody, all of these teams are going, and drivers are going to be in play somewhere at some point for top 10 bets or head-to-heads. Shipbox specials, we had a lot of those last year. We'll get back into those if we get the opportunity this year. So really it is relevant to talk about everybody.
You mean the sport's better when everybody has an opportunity to win on a week-to-week basis? What kind of nonsense, communist nonsense are we talking about here? No, listen, I will say, though, that, too, we're going to be talking in the later part of this week and then into next week of some of these props that Caesars has been giving us. And there's a lot of groups in there. And so a lot of these names will kind of sprinkle into these group conversations, too. So, obviously pay attention to this as we carry that conversation forward into next week and start talking about these group bets that we're getting. And yeah, there's so many great favorites. In fact, let's just start with one right now, and one we didn't really talk about a lot, especially with all of the news of the lawsuit kind of dying down for now. And we kind of know that the charters are going to be given away now, the SHR charters, and where they're going and who they're getting. And 2311 is one of those that's going to be expanding to a 3-team set. They already got Bubba Wallace, who we've talked a lot about in episodes for championship and win totals. They got Tyler Reddick, who obviously we believe is high. Well, now they're getting Riley Herbst. So
did you say who we believe is high?
What did we say? Huh?
You said Tyler Reddick, who we believe is high.
Oh, well, I mean, he may be high.
I don't think Tyler Reddick's high, but we are high on Tyler Reddick.
We've been smoking the Tyler Reddick cigarette. But yeah, no, look, The Riley Herbst joins this star-studded. He's not high, but I'm sure he's going to be riding high next year, driving alongside of two fantastic teammates. So, yeah, look, for Riley Herbst, how much more sweet of a ride can you land in, especially with the Monster Energy tie-in, right, with Tyler Reddick and him. And, yeah, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, so this is obviously a great opportunity for Riley. If you've listened to this show for the multiple seasons that it's been on, he was a guy a couple of years ago I was very hard on. I did not think that he was very good. I was continued to question why Monster would stick with this guy. He just wasn't getting it done. We'd seen him at top tier rides. Like, he started at Childress and Xfinity. He was with JGR and Xfinity. Just couldn't quite get it done. And then he lands at HAAS and something changed, something clicked, and it clicked. I mean, we started to see it really 2 seasons ago, 2023, and then he continued it here in 2024, just this past season. And obviously it's now landed him in the Cup Series with the ride for Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan, which is, like you said, a pretty good opportunity to have. His teammate, Tyler Reddick, of course, was a regular season champion this past season. And Reddick and Bubba Wallace have been in the playoffs multiple times over the past couple of years. So, yeah, this is a great opportunity for Riley. What do we think Riley's going to get done this season? I think that, this is probably another one where it's questionable. Does he make the playoffs? I think if he were to make the playoffs, that would be a smashing success, right? I think that it's going to be probably tough for him to break the playoffs in the first season. So if he does, then we're already batting above expectation, I think. But I would expect for him to be, 20th place or so in the point standings at the end of the day. Anything above that, I think, would definitely be a big success. Probably not going to win. I mean, could win at super speedways. We've seen him be competitive at those, both in the Cup Series. He's made some starts in the Cup Series in those, and then as well in the Xfinity Series. So, maybe a random top 10 bet here or there, kind of depending on some things, see how things go. Maybe you get him in some fun head-to-heads that are kind of mid-pack head-to-head types of things, but that's probably about the extent as far as betting that we'll be looking at him.
Well, I tell you what, first and foremost, my brother checking in, Riley Herbst of Trackhouse, sign me up. Well, yes, that would be fun too, but no, unfortunately, he will be going to 2311, which
2311's better.
I guess I shouldn't say unfortunately. Yeah. It's not unfortunate.
Yeah. It's close, but I would take 2311 if I was picking.
Oh, easily. And listen, with the amount of monster cars in the field this year, it's going to be a little bit difficult to try to pick between Ty Gibbs, Tyler Reddick, and Riley Herbst on a week-to-week basis. But
you gotta love people like Monster, like Bass Pro, like Menards, that they don't give a fuck. Like, they'll just sponsor half the field, and hey, I love to see it. So it's great.
Hey, at one point, your car is going to be on camera at some instance of this, right? If you sponsor enough of them. No, listen, for Riley Herbst, obviously, like we said, his teammates are too good for him to not, I guess, benefit from the experience of both of them in the Cup Series. And he is a decent enough driver now. And he was a penciled in top 5 bet each and every week for us in the Xfinity Series for a long time, right? So, I mean, we always expected him to be running in the top 5. Now, in the Cup Series, I would say top 10s would be fun to look at, depending on the numbers for it. Obviously, groups, if we're given decent enough group numbers for him. He's not somebody that I'm scared of putting any sort of faith in this year to get things done. So I like this for Riley Herbst, and I like this for us as bettors.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's going to be opportunities. It's not going to be every week, but there's going to be opportunities to get in on him, get good numbers. And we already know he is sort of an experienced driver, because he's not just like a guy that came up super quick and all of a sudden he's in the Cup Series. Like, he slugged it out in the Xfinity Series for a lot of years before he's finally made this move, and sort of earned his stripes, if you want to say, almost like a Ross Chastain type of. I mean, Ross really earned his stripes with some shitty rides first, but been around and cut his teeth for a long time doing it. So I think it will be a little bit of an easier transition for him.
I love that. So where we're pulling this from right now, kind of has at the tail end of it. Don't be surprised if they field a 4th car for Corey Heim. That's going to be fun. If they end up doing that, yeah. I would love to look at where
this is
Corey Heim.
Yeah. So we've been just using Bob Pockrass's article. Obviously, if you pay attention to NASCAR, you know Bob Pockrass, and he pretty much knows everything. But yeah, so he's got little notes sort of behind everybody, and you love to see that, right? That 4th car. Occasional 4th car for Corey Heim would be great. Still potentially the fourth car for Martin Truex Jr. Nobody really knows anything about that for Daytona, but we'll figure it out. But yeah, it's I like it.
Beautiful. Okay, let us, I see your question, CYTY. We're going to get to you in just a second, but I have to take care of a little bit of business because I am anxious to tell you about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Pick'em has one of the biggest menus for all of sports. You can win up to 1,000 times your money with Underdog Streaks. Underdog is always making it easier to win with profit boosts and gimme pick'ems. They got NFL, college football, college basketball, NBA, MMA, NASCAR, Formula One, and so much more. You can also use specials and boost on all flex entries. Look, if you're listening right now live on Monday Night Football kicking off tonight, my beloved 49ers about to upset the Detroit Lions, but I do believe Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get his. David Montgomery is out. That means it's all sales set for Jahmyr Gibbs. His higher than here is set for 85.5 rushing yards. Sorry, Niners, you're going to have a handful with Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he's going to go higher than 85.5 rushing yards. So make sure you go to get that pick in right now. While you're at it, sign up with our promo code RACESGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code RACESGPN. Yes, indeed. I'm going to watch my Niners probably get dismantled tonight, but whatever. I would love for them to beat the Lions. It doesn't matter what the Lions do tonight because they still got to play Minnesota for the NFC North Championship.
Yeah, that's sort of one of those interesting things. Do they play everybody tonight and risk that injury when this game truly doesn't mean anything for either team? But sounds like, at least from what I've seen, they're going to play everybody. So hopefully nobody gets hurt. It's going to be to finish off the NFL regular season next Sunday night with Minnesota, Detroit, the NFC North on the line, the number one seed on the line. If you don't get the number one seed, which gives you the bye home field advantage, you go to the 5 seed, which puts you immediately on the road. That's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be nuts. Although I do wish that Sam Darnold would have sat a lot sooner yesterday because my fantasy team could have used him on the bench for a couple of drives. But all right, that's neither here nor there. CYTY, let's get back to your question. Why do you think Bubba is such a good driver? He's newsworthy, but has now lost his crew chief. We kind of talked about this a little bit in that, look, we think he's a good driver because he's consistently good enough to be in like the top 10, top 15 conversation. We put him in wins in instances like Talladega where he's won before and some super speedways. But I think, Cody, and I think you can agree with me because we've talked about this at length a lot of times, is that when Bubba finally figures it out, I think he will be in conversation to be a top 5 driver on most tracks.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he obviously he's very controversial driver. We get that. Some people love him, some people hate him. Well, I know we're both personally fans of the guy. I really like him. I think he does a good job. You go back and look, 15 top 10s last season, 6 top 5 finishes. He's a guy we hit on some top 10s pretty often. Usually can get good numbers. Some of our fandom is swayed on the fact of being able to bet on guys more often, right? And sometimes that's why it feels like we diss on or don't like SVG, even though we do like the guy. And I think he's super cool and everything, but it's harder to bet on him at times because he does get respected by the books a little more. Bubba doesn't as much. So I think that plays into it. He's not a top tier driver, and spoiler alert, the next 2 days we have championship future odds, and we sort of go a little more in depth into this. Don't ask me how I know about the future, but yes, we're going to have more conversations about that. I feel like I've already maybe had that conversation in my head or maybe on tape. Who knows? He's sort of that next tier of driver, right? And he's shown he can get wins at Talladega. And then he also got the win at Kansas, which that's obviously the huge one. Anybody can win at super speedways for the most part. But getting that win at Kansas, I think, was huge. I think the crew chief change is actually going to be big for him. I think Booty is a good crew chief. And, I think that was a good pairing, but sometimes shaking it up, maybe getting a new perspective will be good and help them out. Obviously, he's not Tyler Reddick level. If you're looking at 2311, Tyler's clearly the top guy over there and has a shot at the championship. And we're actually going to, spoiler alert again, talk about how we don't really think Bubba's a championship contender, but can still have a good playoff run and stuff like that. So he's that next tier of driver, but I think he's solid and gives you an opportunity at a top 10 just about every week.
it's not like you're trying to turn the Las Vegas Raiders around here. That's not the thing that you're trying to do with Bubba Wallace. It's not as if you're bringing this club that is struggling and can't win games and can't get out of their own way. You're kind of milking along a 7-9 team, right? You're trying to bring along a team that's middling.
He's Jim Fisher. Is that what you're saying? Is that what that guy was? That was he was just 7-7 or whatever, 8-8 every year.
Yeah, you're just trying to coax a few more wins out of a team, or at least a few more good finishes out of a guy that is capable of doing so. So, all right, that's our Bubba Wallace take. Let's move on to Front Row Motorsports, who has a pretty crazy looking lineup right now between Todd Gilliland, because we know that McDowell has left for greener pastures. He is no longer driving the 34, so Todd Gilliland slides into that one, and then Zane Smith is going to be in this car. I don't think they know the number
unofficially.
Well, listen, we've already touted and claimed already. So by this point, we were already sold on the fact that Zane Smith is going to be in this car. So whatever car they bring in, it should be Zane Smith. And then, of course, Noah Gragson is going to be, that is for sure, going to be a driver in this one. Don't know the number for that one yet, but.
So the Noah Gragson, it seems pretty certain he's going to be in the 4 car, actually. Bob has 38 or numbered TBA in this article, but from some of the renderings and stuff that have slipped out, which sometimes, it's like somebody drew that on iRacing and you're like, oh, it's not actual real rendering, but it seems like he's probably going to be the 4 car. Of course, that's the SHR charter that's coming over. 4 car seems to be open at this point in time. So that's probably what that's going to be. Zane Smith is likely to be the 3rd FRM guy. Although, again, not officially announced at this point in time, but odds reflect that, which is actually going to be really funny tomorrow when we have more about that conversation. And then, Todd Gilliland moving over. So let's start with Gilliland kind of at the top there, right? He moves from the 38 to the 34. McDowell, we've gotten pretty used to seeing in that 34 car. He's been in there for a while, so that's going to be different seeing Todd over there, but they've obviously made him their franchise guy, right? He's the franchise quarterback. First guy they've ever given a long-term deal to. They've moved him to the 34. You're our guy. We've anointed you, and they're making him the top flight guy. So I think that's great news for Todd. We've seen a lot of good stuff out of him, and I think that's going to kind of continue. We've seen this 38 or 34 car be able to compete a few times. McDowell obviously won the 500 a couple years ago, but then won that road course race at Indy, I believe it was, just 2 seasons ago also. So good signs from them. Todd's been a guy that's kind of a sneaky top 10 bet. I think that's going to continue, and hopefully you see him kind of continue to move forward trajectory-wise in that 34 car.
So, I mean, look, for Todd Gilliland, he does have 10 career top 10 finishes, 1 top 5 in his 3 years as a Cup Series driver, 3 wins in the Truck Series, 27 top 5s, 53 top 10s. So obviously a much better Truck Series driver. This is a guy in which I'm kind of thinking to myself, yeah, we have seen this 10, and this is why I think it's the 34 car that's going to make him, I don't know if it's going to make him a better driver. I don't know if the fact that he's going to be the main guy make him a better driver, but I mean, you look at some of the finishes for Michael McDowell last year: 8th place in Atlanta, 8th place at Phoenix, 11th at Bristol, a top 10 finish at Kansas and Darlington, a runner-up at Sonoma. He finished 5th in Chicago, 7th at Watkins Glen, 11th at Bristol, and then finished the season off with a 14th place at Homestead. So, I mean, this car and this team are capable of a fringe top 10 finish. So at what point do we start looking at him other than maybe super speedways for top 10 finishes? Do we look at road courses?
I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities to look at him, road courses and just general ovals too. I think that it is sort of a big deal when you get to these mid-tier teams, I guess you could call Front Row. Their top car tends to do better than the other cars in the stable. So moving him up and making him that top car guy, this is the 34 car. Front Row has been around a long time with that 34 car. His father actually drove the car back in the day. And it is a big step to move him up like that. Front Row is also making big investments. They've purchased one of these SHR charters. They're expanding to a 3-car team. They're already very invested in the Truck Series. They won a championship with Zane Smith a couple of years ago also, by the way. But they are now expanded to a 2nd Truck Series team, right? They brought in our boy, who did they bring in? Yeah, our boy, somebody. Who did they bring in for the second truck? Chandler Smith. That's who it was, Ross. Thank you.
Chandler, yeah.
Appreciate the assist on that one.
Hey, what am I if not your ready-made,
I was going to get there eventually. I was going through the Rolodex. Who's guys I really love to bet on? Oh, yeah, Chandler Smith. There he is. But so they're very invested, and they're taking on NASCAR in a lawsuit, which to me actually screams like, hey, we want to be here. We mean business, and we're serious about this thing long term, which you love to see. So I think all of that reflects well on the team. I think that reflects well on Todd. And then for Zane Smith, potentially in the 36 car. Look, he struggled at the beginning of the season. That 71 car for Spire. Trackhouse had him signed to a futures deal, but they sort of ran out of future spots, I guess you could say. And so Zane was kind of left holding the bag when the music stopped, but going to be good, hopefully, to see him picked up by Front Row here, assuming he gets this ride. But we really saw at the end of the season, he came on strong. We hit him multiple times for top 10s at all types of different tracks. Really started to figure it out. We obviously have known what he's been able to do in the Truck Series for multiple years, getting a championship, tons of wins there. And we placed a lot of bets on him in that series. So I'm very excited for Zane. Again, he's got that rookie season out of the way now, coming into a second season, continuing to build on that with a team that's on the up and up. Coming up, you like to see that for Zane Smith, so I'm pretty excited for him. Again, assuming that he goes there. No official announcements been made at this point in time, but you'd expect that to probably be coming out soon now that they have their charter deal. They've purchased the charter now, I believe. 2311 one is still sort of held up, but the Front Row one has been purchased and finalized, I believe, at this point in time. So they've got that charter that we think they're going to have the agreement for next year.
Well, and for Zane Smith, he's not somebody that I'm really rushing to the counter to place any bets on right now. So I would probably just wait and see, and maybe get
he's going to be an early season top 10 because we're going to get 8-1, 10-1, 12-1 on him when we get to tracks like Las Vegas and Homestead early on. There's going to be early opportunities when nobody really knows what to expect, where we're probably going to toss some flyers out on him because nobody's really going to know what's coming, and they waited so long to announce it. But I think he's going to jump in and have some instant, you say instant success. That doesn't mean he's going to go out and win races. I don't think that's going to happen. No, he's could be capable at super speedways, of course, but I think that it will be pretty good for him right from the get-go. And then Noah Gragson, very, very excited for this, Rod. Obviously a guy we've also been following for years coming up through Xfinity. We know the level of talent he is. Got a couple of seasons under his belt in the Cup Series now. Another change of teams, which is, he starts with Legacy. That obviously deal happens and he leaves the team. Then he goes to Stewart Haas, and you're like, okay. Then they fold, of course, and so now he's found another home. But a lot of talent for Noah there. A guy that I think next season, 2026, I think we could be talking about Noah Gragson as a guy that's competing for race wins on a normal not week-to-week basis, but there's going to be opportunities for him to compete for real race wins, and I'm pretty excited about that. So he'll be another guy that I think we're going to have our opportunities. Top 10s. Front Row is probably going to be a top 10 team because you're still going to get longer odds on them, but they're going to have cars that are capable of getting it done. So pretty excited for Noah to be over there as well.
I'm curious to see, really, honestly, how well he can do in this equipment, because we know what he can do in great equipment, right? When we saw it in the Xfinity Series, when he ripped off 8 wins in JRM equipment and 21 top 5s and 26 top 10s, like he basically had that whole series on lock, except for, of course, Ty freaking Gibbs. But when he gets in a car, it's not as if he's not without talent. And you're right. I mean, he hasn't been able to have steady footing in the Cup Series with Legacy happening to him. It almost felt, though, as if he would have a good shake at Legacy if the equipment wasn't as bad as it was that first year. And then, of course, last year with the
had a somewhat decent run in that 42 car before the incident that sort of led to him losing that or leaving that ride, however that worked out. But, just to put like what I think of Noah Gragson as a driver, when that 19 car was open before they announced that Chase Briscoe was going to be in there, I was hoping that was going to be Noah Gragson. And I know some of you are very excited for Chase Briscoe. If Noah Gragson was in the 19 car this season, I would be hammering the over his win total. I would be all in on him to finish top 5 in the championship, all these things. I don't know why I'm more hesitant on Briscoe, but Gragson as a talent is there. Now it's a third car, right? I think he'll be sort of the second driver over there. I think really if we're going to place them in tiers, it's going to be Gilliland, Gregson, and then Smith. But I think that as Front Row continues to build here over the next couple of seasons, we're going to talk more and more about Noah being a bit of a contender.
Yeah, again, it's just his aggressiveness, I think, can be good for this team because it will put him in position, and them in positions to actually compete for, some good solid finishes on a week-to-week basis. So, yep, definitely love Noah Gregson's landing spot. Do wish he could have been better, but I think he is good enough to be able to overcome his, we'll see how Front Row does next year. Let's just put it that way. So, all right, let's talk about some more driver changes. But before we do, I want to tell you about MyBookie. We're brought to you by MyBookie.ag. You get props for every game and a live dealer casino option. There's even early cash out opportunities for you to take advantage of. Just talked about earlier how I'm looking at Jahmyr Gibbs to be able to run pretty solidly over my San Francisco 49ers. I think they're going to give it to him a lot, too. The carries is set at 16.5 over on MyBookie. Go ahead and take that over. -117 over there for the over on Jahmyr Gibbs total carries. You only play the juice if you lose, and I think they're going to be feeding. They're going to try to save one Jared Goff's arm, so they're going to need to make sure that he's safe for the postseason. So they'll just hand the ball off to Jahmyr Gibbs. Head to MyBookie.ag, promo code SGPN, for a 100% deposit match up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. That's MyBookie.ag, promo code SGPN. SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. Build your own model, copy one of the top-performing models from the leaderboard, or you can have Rhythm build a model for you. Now you can track props in the Rhythm app, NFL picks, NFL props, college football, college basketball, NBA. Rhythm has it all. Thank you, Rhythm, for helping me get on the other side of that 16.5 Jahmyr Gibbs rushing total rushing carries total. I don't want you guys to go out and say, Jahmyr Gibbs isn't 16 yards total. I'll hammer the over on that one. Rhythm didn't need to help you with that. No, they didn't. But the carries were there. You can claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. I sometimes think people forget how much we actually talk in our given profession and how the ability for things to come out that, one, you didn't even know you were going to say, and two, like your brain's thinking 15 times faster than your mouth can get there, and by the time it comes out, it's all jarbled. So I wonder if people really
Tyler Reddick's high,
like Tyler Reddick's high, or like Jahmyr Gibbs rushing total 16, because then people are going to go and say, that guy has no idea what he's talking about. Come on. Now, if you guys talk as much as we did, CYTY says, sorry, guys, I've seen Gregson drunk and or under the influence to ever really take him seriously. You've seen that, but look at that's
the guy likes to party. Let him party.
What is he, 20 some odd years old? Bro, you don't want to see any video for me when you would not take me seriously if you saw me as a 20, 35, 40
Look at what he did in the Xfinity Series, and I get it. Like, not everything from the Xfinity doesn't always transfer to the Cup Series, and he's not in the tier of ride that he was there. But the guy's got talent. I think it's there for sure. And the equipment's not great, but good enough that I think we're going to see some solid stuff from him.
Indeed. Trying to remember, did we talk about Spire the last time we were on? I don't think we actually talked about Spire, did we?
We did not, Rod.
Okay, good. Well, then let's talk about Spire right now, because your favorite guy is no longer there, and he was not there as of the end of last season. So Justin Haley will resume driving for that number 7 car in Spire, joined by, as we just talked about, his buddy, Michael McDowell, who is moving from Front Row over to Spire. And then Carson Hocevar remains in that 77. So really the big change here is bringing in Michael McDowell in the 71 now to take Zane Smith's spot. So it's like a flip-flop of seats for these guys. But now, okay, we talked about Front Row and Michael McDowell being able to do well in Front Row equipment. Do we think Spire's a better team? And if so, does that mean Michael McDowell's in for a lot more top 10 finishes?
Yeah, so a couple of things here. Spire is another team that, originally, it's crazy if you sort of know the Spire story, I guess. They got into owning race teams because of charters, and they were essentially just playing these are going to be worth more someday, so we're going to play them, or we're going to play this game of making money off of these. And they did such a good job at it that they've turned it into actually wanting to have a really good race team, and they're building towards that, and it seems like they're doing a pretty good job. It seems like they've sort of upped their relationship with Chevrolet. They're not going to be Hendrick or even RCR level, obviously, with them, but a step up there. I think that's going to be good. They've brought in 3 solid drivers now. Maybe the biggest thing they brought in, though, Rodney Childers comes over to the number 7 car. He's going to be the crew chief for Justin Haley. I think it was Willow that was commenting on the YouTube before about crew chiefs are maybe just as important as head coaches in the NFL. I don't know if I go quite that far, but it's a pretty close comparison, especially when it's an elite crew chief, like a guy like Rodney Childers, who worked with Kevin Harvick for forever. And he had his struggles with Josh Berry, right? You change out the quarterback, and Bill Belichick's not as good of a coach all of a sudden, right? It happens. But bringing him over,
buddy.
I wish the GOAT well at North Carolina, Rod. But bringing him over is going to bring a wealth of knowledge into the team. That's going to be great for them. And so I think that's going to help the team just overall. It's going to help Justin Haley. They made that in-season trade, which you don't see very often, to bring Haley over, finish the season there in the 7 car. The 7 car, they got to figure out how to turn the spin cycle off. It was there for Lajoie. It was still there for Haley. For whatever reason, the car just spins out every once in a while, but hopefully Childers can fix that. So yeah, this team is one of those teams where I don't really know where to place expectations, I guess, sort of as a whole, because they should definitely continue to improve, and we saw really good stuff from them last season, especially out of Carson Hocevar, ends up being the Rookie of the Year. So yeah, Justin Haley's an interesting one. He's been good at super speedways. He's also been good at like short flat tracks. I think there might be some opportunities to hit him there. But even though he's getting the top crew chief, he's like the guy that I would put 3rd on this list, Rod. And CYTY agrees. He says Hocevar is going to be the top Spire driver. Saw a story about his life. He made his own track in his backyard, used it all the time. That's pretty sweet. But yeah, Hocevar really showed a lot of last season. I'm the most excited about Hocevar. Another guy we hit on top 10s quite a bit. I think we're going to continue to get opportunities for that. Won the Rookie of the Year last season. Very, very impressive. I expect him to continue to climb. McDowell, interesting, moving from Front Row to Spire. Obviously saw something here that he really liked. And so, making that move to the 71. The 71 was the weakest car last season, right? But 77 had been the weakest car prior to that, and Hocevar didn't have a problem there. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that. But yeah, I mean, I have pretty high expectations for Hocevar. I think that he will sort of be the lead driver there. I think McDowell I would put 2nd and Haley 3rd, which is weird because people were talking about maybe Haley was going to the 48 car. I think that was a little bit overblown, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know that any of these are playoff cars. Probably not. But again, sort of flirting with like right outside of the playoffs, I think probably for all 3 of these cars.
I think I can pretty much expect this to be a 10 to 15, if not 10 to 20 range of cars each and every week. And, every once in a while, we'll be able to maybe look at a top 10 for one of these guys. I'll look a lot more at the groups if they give us some of these, D, E, F, or G type of a group settings where maybe a McDowell is lumped in with some of these legacy guys, or or a Corey Lajoie, or Justin Haley is mixed in with some of these lower tier, maybe former SHR or the HAAS Factory or something like that. Maybe I'll look at that as well. But Hocevar, yeah, I think he's the one guy that we can kind of maybe look at each and every week for a legitimate top 10 run, because we know how good he's been, right? We know how good he was in the Truck Series, obviously killing everybody in the Truck Series. And now he's sort of translated that slowly but surely, getting himself into because he's one of those guys where I don't think this last season for him, or even the last couple of seasons for him, is going to sit well. He's going to go and really just dig into it, because he strikes me as one of those guys that's a quiet professional. Well, he's not really quiet, but he's a quiet professional, because you don't really, steal a whole lot of the headlines from him. Don't get him mad though. I will say that. But he's going to go about getting better, and I think that spells trouble for the rest of the sport.
He's one of those interesting ones too, because he comes in and wins Rookie of the Year and has a really impressive rookie season. He never really dominated in the Truck Series. He wasn't the Corey Heim or even like a Gragson in the Xfinity Series or Ty Gibbs, nothing like that. But yet for multiple years, people were like, this dude needs to be in a Cup car. Like, there obviously is some big talent there that people have seen and we've already seen begun to play out. I think that's going to continue to grow, and I think that this team is another team that's making all the right strides, which again, to the point earlier of the bottom isn't as weak as the bottom used to be. I think the Spire team is going to kind of continue to show that, and having all of these teams back here, it's crazy. You say 10 to 20 every week for Spire, like who's going to finish 20th to 36, right? But these guys are all going to have opportunities to finish 10th to 20th each and every week, and that entire 10th to about 30, probably 10th to 30th, I guess, is just such a jam-packed area in the Cup Series right now, which is really, really exciting.
It is exciting, and they're going to no longer be stacking pennies. I'm sure they're stacking dimes at this point. Maybe stacking quarters before you know it. So definitely love that for Spire. All right, so a team that is just changing names, not necessarily changing anything. That's HAAS Motorsports, obviously formerly JTG. Ricky Stenhouse staying there. Only bring it to your attention so you know that anytime we start talking about HAAS Motorsports from now on, it's essentially just the 47, and it's just formerly JTG. Kind of no other noteworthy of that one.
Yeah, I mean, so Gordon Smith takes over as the primary owner. He was already an owner with JTG Jordy. He just bought out the JTG part, which was Judy and Tad Geschechter. So they've been bought out and moved on. It sounds like Brad Doherty is still part of the ownership, but loses his name being on the team. Sort of strange, I guess. But whatever. So they're going with HAAS Motorsports. They lost Kroger. That's a lot of money. Interesting. But they've been making some they did bring in Ernie Cope, by the way, former longtime NASCAR Cup Series guy who is going to be the team's general manager. Also has an ownership stake, which is an interesting part. Look, these one-car teams, and JTG's sort of been towards the bottom tier for a while anyways. It's going to be tough for them to really compete much. I think really it's going to be the same that we've seen from Stenhouse over the years, right? He can win the Daytona 500. He can win at super speedways. You're going to get some good runs every once in a while. He's going to finish second at Bristol, and you're going to be like, damn, where'd that come from? But outside of that, he's probably going to be more of a 20 to 36 place guy on a week-to-week basis. You're going to get your opportunities here and there. He's got certain tracks where he's better at. I think that'll continue, but kind of same expectations, I guess, for him that we've had previously. And drivers not changing. Nothing else is really changing, just the ownership group and the people running the team. So that could go either way, but I expect it to stay about the same.
Indeed. So yeah, just we'll pop our head open every once in a while for Ricky Stenhouse, but by and large we won't be talking about him. No more BJ McLeod, low tier.
I mean, BJ is still going to be running, but the thing is, he only basically runs at super speedways because he's just going to run as an open car because he's sitting on all that money, all that cash money from selling those charter. But yeah, and it's hard to say he's low tier at a super speedway because he's not. He performs well. So yes, if he was running on a week-to-week basis, he'd be the lowest of the low tiers. But we don't. And I guess that's a good example, right? We don't have that low of a tier of a car really anymore. So that's what's good about it.
Indeed. Speaking of low tier, somebody we used to really, now the resurgence of Rick Ware Racing under the banner of Corey Lajoie. Bring it in, Cody. You know you want to. Right there, Corey Lajoie, and it's beautiful.
Hopefully, not been announced officially, Rod. We're hoping that's going to be it again, like the Zane Smith thing. It seems like all signs point to Corey Lajoie, but that's the thing is are they going to run that car full time? Are they not going to run it full time? So Rick Ware has leased the RFK charter. So Ryan Parese's 60 charter for RFK, which we talked about on last episode, that is a Rick Ware Racing charter. Essentially, that's the 15 car. So now they just hold the 51 car charter. No, they're still expected to run the 15 car. That's probably going to be the part-time car. You maybe have one guy in there full-time, whether that's Cody Ware, whether that's Corey Lajoie. All signs point to it being Corey Lajoie, but again, no official announcement. Rick Ware, I think, still is the weakest of the teams. I don't think that's really going out on a limb there. It just is how it is. But we saw a bit of a bump, I guess you could say, from Lajoie going over there. They finished out the season fairly strong.
Defined fairly strong, because
14th at Las Vegas. That's fairly strong, Rod. Maybe not the 35th and 32nd. Those were mechanical issues, which is what you're going to get with this team, right? So, I mean, 4 of the last 5 were 32nd or worse. So yes. But 14th at Las Vegas, 15th at Kansas, 8th at Watkins Glen, 9th at Darlington, 15th at Atlanta, which you expect, 18th at Talladega, which you expect. Those are decent runs for that car. And then you also get 35th at Martinsville, 35th at Miami, 32nd at Phoenix. A lot of that was mechanical issues and stuff. That's going to continue to be how it is. He's going to be a guy that I'm going to bet every time we go to super speedways. That's not going to change because you continue to see him run extremely well, especially at Daytona and Atlanta. Talladega's, it's not the same. He's not quite as good, but can pop up, right? But I would expect it to pretty much stay the same. I think that Corey is better than Cody Ware. Again, that's not really going out on a limb, right? Justin Haley, I think there's probably a reason that Spire wanted him over Corey. So you're probably about the same, maybe a little bit of a downgrade with Corey there, I guess. But I expect the team to just be full of ups and downs. They're going to have good runs, like a 14th at Las Vegas sometimes. They're going to have 35th place finishes a lot, probably more often than they don't. He's going to be tough to really probably bet on. So super speedways, you're definitely going to bet on him. And there might be occasional, just glancing over these results. Las Vegas and Kansas, 14th and 15th place. Like, maybe when we go to Las Vegas, you get him in a shitty group and they do, 9th at Darlington. Like, that's 3 intermediates. He was 14th at Indianapolis. No, so that would have been, he still would have been in the 7 card then. Because I don't remember what race. I don't think they switched until Richmond.
No, they did. They switched to Kansas. Kansas is when he became.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so that was his first. Yeah. So, but to get maybe some group opportunities, I guess, because you had some decent runs there, and it's just going to be. Let's see if that continues, right? Like, is he randomly good at 1.5 miles in a Rick Ware car? Seems like the place he would not be good at. Maybe, I don't know. So it's no high expectations, right? He's going to be in the mix at the super speedways. I think he can get it done. I'm going to continue to bet on him. And again, if you've followed the show for a while, it doesn't always work, but he's made a lot of money for us on super speedways over the years. And that's really the reason that I love the guy so much, Rod, is because I became a fan because he won me a lot of money. It's not hard to win my fandom, and he's done it. So, and then Adrian checking in with the Leon's Automotive here. I love Corey's hard card photo from last year. I think Corey can be a serious threat for Daytona and Atlanta. He'll even play at road courses for a top 10 if RFK boosts their support of RWR. That is actually sneaky. So he's been decent at road courses and qualified randomly very well at road courses as well. If they can put that together and get the finishes, maybe a sneaky road course top 10. And yes, those RWR cars are prepared in the RFK shop. If you remember going back just 2 seasons ago, Justin Haley left Colleague to go to Rick Ware, and everybody's like, dude, what? Is he okay? Like, blink twice for being held hostage? Like, what's going on? Is it like, does he know? But then he was all excited. He's like, look, this is in. Brad Keselowski was in the meeting with him when he signed that deal, and they've got all these exciting things going on, and they've obviously continued the partnership as far as leasing the charter to him. So they're not going to be another RFK car. But if that partnership has continued to step up, again, they're still the bottom team out of all of them, yes, but there's some opportunities to get stuff mixed in there. I know that's probably too long to talk about Corey Lajoie, and everybody hates it, but I like to talk about him anyways.
I was about to say, you basically have probably talked more about Lajoie than Lajoie has talked about himself over his podcast over the last few weeks.
Yeah. And TK checking in too. Might have got some advice from SVG. Seems to be on friendly terms with him based on the few podcasts he had. Yeah, he did have SVG on the podcast a ton. So hopefully he got some tips from SVG and maybe he's our next racing god.
Just to kind of further it a little bit, I guess. So Justin Haley did have a 9th place at Gateway earlier in the season, a 9th place at Darlington. This is all, of course, as the driver of the 51. 13th place at Iowa, 13th at Nashville, 16th at Chicago, 12th in Atlanta. Like, we're talking fringe top 10s. And if
that's such a massive victory for the Rick Ware.
Top 15.
Go back and tell somebody in 2019, Rick Ware is driving races and finishing 13th without 17 overtimes, fuel tanks falling out of cars, like crazy shit happened. They're just running 13th, and nobody would believe you that was happening. So, yeah, sure, that's not going to help us with the top 10 bed, and it's not going to win championships or races. But, again, to the point of all of these teams can really compete for borderline top 10s. That includes this team, and it's been with Justin and the small sample size with Corey too. So I think that's going to continue, and maybe focusing more of our efforts into one car instead of spreading resources to two, maybe that helps things.
We'd like to thank you for joining us in the Corey Lajoie Gambling Podcast, and we hope to see you guys next year. No, look, I get it, and we probably spent more time on Corey Lajoie than we even needed to, but yeah, you're right. He's fun to talk about. All right, let's talk about let's see. SHR last year became the island of misfit toys, where all these guys were going to be homeless sooner rather than later. Most of them have all found homes, and now one of them is going to Wood Brothers Racing. Replacing Harrison Burton will be Josh Berry in that 21 car. If you were Caesar sitting up in the what do you call those things? The giant coliseums, right? And you're up there and somebody brought to you Josh Berry in the 21. Would your thumb go up or would your thumb go down, Cody? That's what I want to know.
I don't think my thumb has moved at all.
Yeah, it's the needle. Wait, your thumb? No, the needle has not moved on Josh Berry. Look, we know that as an SHR car driver last year, it was kind of a rough go for him. He was in that storied 4 car, but in that car, he only got 2 top 5 finishes, 4 top 10 finishes, an average finish 22.7 on a 20.3 average start. I mean, this was a rough go. That 4 car, we know. I mean, Kevin Harvick turned that 4 car into something, and then not.
Even Harvick, I guess you could say, struggled. He wasn't competing for wins really in his final season. Then it was also the swan song. So you come in, it's your rookie year. Oh, by the way, our team's not going to be here next year. You've got this great crew chief. Oh, he's not going with you to your new team. He's not even going to stick with the manufacturer. So it's hard to use the measuring stick on Josh Berry. I mean, you could say overall a disappointing season. He comes in as the heavy favorite to win the Rookie of the Year. He doesn't. I've never been able to get excited about Josh Berry, Rod. And if you listen to the show, he doesn't move the needle for me. And I don't know if it's because, again, this could very well be betting related, because he's always had hype, because he's Dale Jr.'s guy. Dale Jr.'s already crowned him a Cup Series champion. He's this next great thing. It's a great story, right? He was 34 years old working in a bank, and now he's in the Cup Series. Like, that is a cool story. It's great and it's wonderful, but he wasn't even that impressive in JRM equipment in the Xfinity Series. Like, sure, he had some wins, he had some good runs. He kept remember the COVID year, he kept like subbing in for all sorts of people. I feel like he even started races for Hendrick, and you're like, oh my goodness. But I don't know. I've not really been that impressed. There's all these expectations. I just wasn't on board. Now he goes to the Wood Brothers car, which it's been Harrison Burton, so low bar already set, right? We've seen that car have success with good drivers in it before, guys like Ryan Blaney. And Penske, as we're about to talk about over the next couple of days, has won 3 championships in a row, 4 of the last 5. That's essentially a 4th Penske car for the most part. So I guess if he's got an opportunity, you could argue this is better than the SHR opportunity because of the fact that SHR was going away. Sure, but do I have much for expectations for him? Not really.
So this is the instance where, and so it's like you said too with Josh Berry, like he was in JRM equipment, but we saw what Noah Gragson could do with that, and he only got 5 wins. Did Josh Berry over the course of his career in the Xfinity Series with JRM? So that's not even all that great. But so now he goes into a situation where, look, Harrison Burton won Daytona, last year, right, in the fall. So there's kind of a big win for them in that one. But other than that, it was just middling, like an 11th place in Atlanta on our super speedway. That's great. 10th place at Talladega on a super speedway. One of his better finishes on, not, I guess it's an oval, but it's not even like a full on, was at Loudon, a 14th place there, 14th place at Michigan, 15th at Las Vegas, 16th at Phoenix. So we're talking, this is probably going to be another one of these 20 to 30 cars on a week-to-week basis with the upside of a top 10 at a super speedway. Maybe he'll pop his head up at a short flat. Like,
he has like hardly any super speedway experience, and he's not been that good at them either. So I don't know. I'd like, and yeah, Adrian here, he's a good play for Iowa, Bristol, Martinsville, Richmond. Look, he's a late model guy. He's a short track guy, and that's probably where you're going to see him. You know, he did have, thinking back to him subbing for Cup guys, he did sub for Chase Elliott in the 9 car for a while when he was hurt. And he got that second place finish, but that was like a strategy call. He didn't he have a like second or fourth place finish last year? I don't have his stats pulled up right in front of me, but
so last year he actually in the Cup Series did have a as I'm scrolling, the third place finish at Darlington, a third place finish at Loudon in that 4 car.
Yeah, and Loudon, short, flat, a late model, right? That all lines up, and Darlington, great for him to have a good run there.
7th in Iowa.
Yeah, and Iowa fits into, again, the short track, and that's one that Adrian pointed out here. But yeah, I don't know. I find it hard to get overly excited about Barry. There's just, and maybe he's not really an exciting guy, probably because he was a banker, and that's why. But I don't know. I don't get that excited about Josh Berry, and I still find it hard to be excited. I think this is a decent opportunity for him. Hopefully he can make the most of it. We've seen Wood Brothers over the years have some opportunity, and if you put a really talented guy in there, like a Ryan Blaney, I think that you can see that team overachieve, because it is a fourth. It's like Penske 4.5, right? It's not like their fourth car, but it's like they're not quite their fourth car, I guess, right? It's like a step under being their fourth car. I don't know, but yeah. I don't know. I'm just like, I can't find the excitement, Rod.
And it's okay. You don't have to. No one's forcing you.
I tried to find it, and it's nowhere here. I can't find it.
Get it. It's a safe place. It's a safe place, Cody. We don't all have to get excited about every single
Let's
driver.
talk about Corey Lajoie some more.
All right, let's talk about Corey Lajoie for another 20 minutes. If you've already tuned out, tune back in again. All right, let's leave Josh Berry alone. I'm sure we'll talk about him in several other instances over the course of the season. But let's move over to the cover guy, the HAAS Factory, the lone HAAS Factory man now standing. It's Cole Custer coming back, making his return to the Cup Series in triumphant fashion. The only driver in this stable, the 41 car, will be them. I mean, for Cole Custer, right, this is a good story, going back down, cutting your teeth. We thought he was going to win 200 races out of 40 down there in the Xfinity Series. He didn't, but he did walk away at least with a series points leader and
championship in 23. So
yeah, champion too. So yeah, I mean, look, for Cole Custer, this thing, the question on the YouTube, if you haven't checked the YouTube, it says, will Cole Custer win for the HAAS Factory team in 2025? Cody, initially when we jumped on to start the show, what was your answer, Cody?
Yes, I logged in, and before I even said hello, I just said no.
Yeah,
because that's the answer. Though this is, I said Rick Ware is the worst team in the garage, Rod. I think HAAS Factory will compete for that title. It's so hard. Look, it's so hard to be a one-car team, and you look around, how many one-car teams do we have? Hayek is a true one-car team. Rick Ware is now, I guess, a one-car team, but they're probably still going to run 2 a lot of the times, and they're out of the RFK shop. Wood Brothers is a one-car team, but again, essentially a fourth Penske team. For HAAS, like, do they even have support from Ford? Like, they're going to run Fords because that's what they were already running. But I don't think that, like, they have a ton of support from Ford. They're not going to be a level 1 like Stuart Haas was. All the good people left the team. Like, it's going to be so hard to go from this, what used to be a 4-car powerhouse competing for titles, winning races, to now you just have one car. And, we talk highly of that team in Xfinity because nothing is changing. Everything is staying exactly the same in the Xfinity Series, except for the name on the building. And I think that's why that's not going to affect the Xfinity team. But the Cup team, this could easily be the worst car in the field a majority of the time. Cole's an okay driver. We saw it in the Xfinity Series. To me, he maybe seems like an all-Geier type that would be better always being in Xfinity and not necessarily in Cup. He did get that one Cup win at Kentucky. It was like a crazy restart. He beat everybody, and it was cool. He got the win and everything, but I have very low expectations for Custer, and I think there's going to be very few opportunities to really bet on him throughout the year. I don't think the equipment's going to be up to par, and I honestly, I think if we're ranking Cup Series driver expectations starting 36-1, Ty Dillon is at 36 and Cole Custer is at 35 for me. I have almost no expectations, and at least Ty Dillon's going to get me a top 5 on a super speedway somewhere. I don't know about Cole Custer.
Yeah, it's tough. No, it really is. I mean, I get you. I get your point, but it's not like they're just going to go to the pick and pull and find the most put together Ford chassis they can find and field a car, or though that might be how it happens. But you look back in his Cup Series career, and you're right. He's got that one win in 2020. That was his best season, obviously, in the entirety of his career. Right. Since then, he had 2 top 10 finishes in 2021, 3 top 10s in 2022. So already you don't know what you're getting from him just based on his past, let alone the fact that you're right. I mean, this is kind of a car that, can we trust this team to put together anything other than the pick and pulls body? I know Leon saying that HAAS said they'd receive support from RFK as a pseudo fourth car for the team, but what does that mean?
A Rick Ware car is the 4th car. I think Rick Ware's getting more support. Well, they're literally in the shop that RFK is in. Sure, HAAS has a technical alliance with them. I don't think that really means much. And let me remind you, if you've not been around NASCAR for a long time, Gene Haas is fucking filthy rich. The guy has so much money. He owns an F1 team. That alone should tell you how much money he has. And then he loves racing, which you love the dude for that, right? And the rich guys that want to spend money in racing, Michael Jordan, Pitbull, Gene Haas, we love it. He came in with that Zero car. I don't know if you remember that car, Rod, the Net Zero car. And it was the slowest fucking car you've ever seen. They had that 66 Best Buy car for a little while. The team was just horrible. Then Tony finally got to the point where he wanted to be an owner. He brought his, he got his ownership stake by bringing his experience, his people. They start winning championships. Tony won, I think, did Tony just have 1 in the 14? I think he won 2 in the 20 and 1 in the 14. And then Kevin won his in 2014 in the 4 car. And they had all these wins, and Newman almost won titles there, and Kurt Busch was great. And they had all these great runs and stuff, but that's all gone now. And I think it's just going to revert back to the HAAS team that we had before that just sucked, because Gene's got money to spend, but I don't know if he doesn't know. He used it properly with Tony, but I don't know. And I don't feel like he's involved, which Kevin made very clear that him and Tony were not involved or around. And maybe that's part of the problem. I'm very, very low on my expectations for this team. And Ty Dillon alone will probably make Cole Custer not the worst driver in the series, but he's going to be pretty fucking close.
Yeah, I only kind of put this out because nowadays we're supposed to put clickbait questions out on our thing. So I figured this wasn't going to be, obviously, I don't think he'll win. I do think that he has the opportunity to accidentally get there just by the fact that he's done it before in the Xfinity Series. So I don't know. So rich that he's
so rich that he's inefficient. That's a good way to put it, TK.
Kind of the way it is.
And but Adrian, don't defend the HAAS team.
yeah.
They had a couple bright spots. Yeah, but
no. Whatever. Ward Burton in that Net Zero Shark paint scheme. Go check that out.
He had I think it was David Green that drove the 66. The Best Buy car was pretty cool looking for a bit, right? But
yeah,
it sucked.
Yeah. All right. Well, then that's it. I think we've reached the end of our driver changes, and man, not a moment too soon, as we've already look at. It's funny because every time we come on, we're like, did we think we could? No, we got through this. We got through this and then some. Hopefully we've uncovered for you some, nuggets. Because again, this is what we're doing this for. We're doing this for you to get your encyclopedia together when it comes to the 2025 season. Because then when we start talking about guys like, oh, well, we think Corey Lajoie is going to be good on this super speedway. Well, you've got the 30 minutes worth of Lajoie talk to back it up.
Exactly. Thank you.
Beautiful.
It'll come in handy in Daytona when he gets another top 5 and cashes a bunch of tickets just like he did last year and I think the year before and Atlanta. Hey, they keep cashing. I'm going to keep betting them, Ron.
That's what we're here for. But all right, well then, Cody, let's go away. Let's go enjoy the rest of our day and have everybody else enjoy the rest of their. Bye, Cody. We'll see you next time.
Jeez, let's go away, Rod. Okay, all right, get the
go away.
We're over our time. Let's go away. All right, next 2 days, Rod. We're coming back. Championship prop bets. There's a fuck ton of them. And yeah, going to be some really good conversations over that. So make sure you join us. And in the meantime, Rod, follow me on the X at @Husker_Zeeb. You can find all my stuff there. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Indeed. Yeah. Just like Cody said, the next couple of days are going to be some fantastic conversations. So make sure to get in on the premieres. Spoiler alert. We're probably not going to be able to answer back because we may have already done them and putting them
in
out.
Your comments. Leave your
yeah.
I'm got some family Christmas vacation stuff here, so I'm going out of town. So they've been already put in the can and pre-recorded, but they were great conversations. And yeah, we still want share your thoughts, opinions, comments, and all that because it's still a lot of fun. And we'll make sure to answer your stuff later on.
Yep, I'm putting them out as live premieres, so that way you guys can converse in real time as the episode goes on. Like I said, we can't answer you, but at least you could talk to you guys as you guys have some.
That's it. Adrian liked the Lajoie content. Get ready for an hour and a half of it for the Daytona 500 episode, Rod.
Beautiful stuff. All right, follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the about everything I got going on, whether it's here, whether it's Sportsbook Review, or whether it's in between media. Guys, we'll see you guys later. Have a safe and happy New Year's, and we'll see you guys in 2025. Until then, let's go racing and let it ride.